What's up, Buffalo Bill fans? It's been forever and a day. Um, did no kind of draft stuff, no kind of any kind of off-season stuff because of the lockout. I did a few videos, but just like the lockout thing kind of had a bad taste in my mouth, so I was just like, kind of, I didn't even upload them. But now that we're out of the lockout, we have free agency and undrafted free agency, and the draft over with. I mean, everything's in full effect, and we see who the Buffalo Bills have, a few guys they lost, a few guys that they let go, a few guys that they signed, the guys that they drafted. We're getting a little bit better picture, but for them to have the ability to bring 90 guys into camp now as opposed to, I believe it was like 80, 85, and obviously eventually get down to that 53-man number and then have the 8-man practice squad, that's going to be, wow, that's a huge it's a lot that's going to happen with this roster within the next, I'd say, a month and a half to 2 months, because we're almost in August, and season starts the 11th. So we're in for a real just blitz of moves, and probably almost daily. It's going to be a really hectic time, but I'm just going to really cover just a little bit of the guys that they drafted, a few of the free agents. Um, the Darius pick, I was ecstatic. I was elated because it was just, you saw it was just Von Miller, and I was just, and in the scouting reports I read, it just eerily looked kind of like a Aaron Maben-esque, a guy who gets lost in coverage, a guy who doesn't play with seems to get lost at times. It just was like, I don't want another Aaron Maben on the Bills, but and just Darius just fit the bill of a big guy, play next to Kyle Williams, and I just love the pick. You see with the force and the ferocity and the strength in which he played. He just, and the athleticism of a guy his size, it is really going to be fun to watch, and hopefully that he shores up a lot of that run defense. And then obviously the next couple of picks were Aaron Williams, a cornerback who I feel is going to fill a need. Um, didn't know if Drayton Florence was going to resign, but he did. Thankfully, I was really happy about that. Very, very happy about that. So that just kind of covers that. So that gives them a nice mix. They also drafted Rogers, Justin Rogers in the secondary, and they have Searcy at safety, another guy that they drafted. So they have a nice mix, and brought back George Wilson before that. So they have a nice mix of guys, I think, and their secondary, I think, has always been pretty strong with this group of players. I think maybe the odd man out might be Terrence McGee, just because of his it doesn't return kicks anymore. He's the older guy amongst the group. He's a good corner, but just gets injured a lot. So we'll have to see how that whole thing develops. The next guy they brought in obviously was Kellen Shepard, who's going to play a big role now, I believe, if they don't bring in a veteran, because of Paul Zlotny leaving to the Jaguars. I was kind of surprised about the team, not surprised that he left. I even have in some of the videos I firmly believe he wanted to play in a 4-3. I thought he was going to maybe go the way of Jerron in Cleveland or Fuel in New York, both playing 4-3 defenses style in systems that he was familiar with. I was not. I mean, I saw in a mixed bag of Bills fans, and I saw Bills fans just acting totally. Either they were elated or they were just acting as if they were just totally devastated, and I didn't understand why. I'm like, this guy has been the middle linebacker of the worst run defenses in the league for the last 2, 3 seasons now, and injured on top of that, however many games. What are you crying about? I mean, he's a nice player. He's a guy you want to root for. He says all the right things. Kind of like the Lee Evans of the defense. Lee says all the right things. He's a real nice guy. But, kind of gets all of his stats in 1 or 2 games, and you kind of never hear from him again. I mean, the big thing on pause, most of those tackles are coming 5+ yards downfield. Looks, you know, looks pretty, when he gets caught out in space and pass coverage, he's very susceptible, and it's not in much of the way of a blitzer. So I'd rather go, me personally, if you're going to go forward from where you were, there's not much lower you can go than what they were. And I'd rather go with the guy I don't know than the guy that I know that's proven over and over again that he just doesn't measure up. I'm sorry. I wish him well. I don't have any special dislikes for him or anything, but it's time to move on. The rest of the guys that they drafted, I mean, everybody's kind of curious about this kid from Bethel, Tennessee, Jasper. That guy is a beast. He did an interview with Chris Brown on BuffaloBills.com today, and he's just huge. That guy is mammoth, and it's gonna be interesting to see who makes the 53 man. I was really excited about the Johnny White pick too. The way he ran, he runs with an attitude. He really does. Those legs never stop moving. He's a special teams guy. He's a guy that's gonna make the squad similar to the way Donald Jones did, just grinding it out on special teams. And once he got his opportunity at wide receiver, took full advantage of it. And that's going to lead me to what I'm going to talk about now, which is, we obviously know that the Tyler Thigpen signing, which was kind of a redundant signing. Everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall. There was word that the Bills were looking at Travarius Jackson, but I think he went to Seattle because his opportunity to start out there was better. And so the Thigpen thing made sense. The Gailey connection from KC, those guys kind of work well together. He didn't look comfortable in the offense Miami was running last year. So this thing with Chan and the Bills, I think he's a good fit. And he really gave the Bills a run for their money in the 2008 game. As I can remember, he was really going blow for blow with Edwards there. Not to talk too highly of Edwards, but anyway, now the Brad Smith signing. And this was a real left field thing. And they didn't sign him for, they didn't give him this huge mind-blowing contract. But really, that was a big signing, in my opinion, for a lot of reasons. He fills a number of roles. You're going to have one guy active on your team. Now you have a legit 46. You don't have the ceremonial emergency quarterback. This guy is going to be the emergency quarterback because he played quarterback at Missouri. He's going to be in a lot of sub-packages on offense, and he's got to be accounted for. Has to be. He's going to pick up, I would venture to say, anywhere between 20 to 30 just first downs for the Bills, and those are downs that the defense doesn't have to play, and I think that's huge. Definitely a serviceable wide receiver, a hell of a kick return. I think he was one of the best, if not the best, in the AFC last year. I don't know about the league, but he was definitely huge in the kickoff return department. And another guy who's going to play on special teams as a cover guy. That's huge. A guy that you can get, and a working knowledge of the Jets system, what they like to do, how they like to use them, what they like. That's huge. And I like to see that. Finally, the Bills, they shaft a division opponent and take a player that's really in his prime and a viable guy that hurts them. They say the Jets didn't offer him a contract, whatever. I don't care. They're so busy trying to collect the best defensive backs in the league. They don't seem to care about anything else. But let me not go off on a tangent about them. And I think the signing was huge. I like to be critical of them as much as I can, the Bills that is, but a lot of people kind of were confused, like, oh, what does that mean for the young wide receivers? I don't think it does anything, because the guy's going to be active as your emergency quarterback. Wherever he plays, he's going to play. And I know a lot of Bills fans are high on the Naaman Roosevelts, and especially Marcus Easley, but even Donald Jones flashed a lot, David Nelson, and it's going to be hard to find spots for these guys, and there's only one ball to go around. But I think if you look at Roscoe Parrish returning off injury, you got to think the guy that might be on the chopping block or a guy that could be, maybe on tenuous ground so much as Lee. I think Lee Evans is just, you got to look at the money he makes, just comparative to the guys that do make the money that he makes in the league. That he, he's just not that figurehead wide receiver, in my opinion. He never has been. He's content to play his role and to just go about his business, and he's a real professional. But it just doesn't, kind of disappears when they play the Patriots or the Jets. It really never did much against them. He burned Miami a few times, but never really the better teams in the division. And again, I'm not trying to diss him as a player. Everybody knows he's a bad route runner. And I think the new coaching staff kind of saw how limited his route tree was. He's a guy who can stretch the field, but yeah, there's a lot of guys that can do that now. I think that the way the team is going, the direction they're going, younger, different style of play, I just don't think Lee is in the long-term plan. So I think it wouldn't surprise me at all if Lee was the guy that kind of ends up traded or somewhat released, really. But then again, you never know. You got to find out what Easley's about. You got to find out what these other guys are about before you go releasing guys. So we'll see how this plays out. I'm interested to see how the defense gels, especially the guys that are second-year guys now coming in, the rookies last year. I mean, it's a fun time, Bills fans. The new uniforms are fucking beautiful. I love them, and I don't curse very often, but they're simply delicious. They're so much better than the last ones. Thanks for hanging with me, Bills fans. I really appreciate it. And for those of you guys who usually watch my MMA videos, I'm probably gonna do one. Fedor's fighting day after tomorrow, and everybody knows I'm a huge fan. Even Hendo, I'm a huge fan of Hendo also. So that's I'm gonna be a little torn in that fight. To be honest with you, it's gonna kind of pull at my heartstrings a little bit. And then following weekend, it's Tito and Evans, and if Tito wins that fight, what a redemption story. I mean, a guy that's pretty much left for dead comes up, beats a young, hungry fighter in Bader, and I think this fight, win, lose or draw for Tito, just kind of gives him a new lease on life in the UFC. I think they bring him back because he kind of saved this pay-per-view for him, and if he wins, it's like whoa, he beats a guy he drew with before, and maybe he's a player in the division. I don't know. Anyway, Bills fans, thanks. I really appreciate it. You guys have a good one, and take care.